So it's been confirmed that The Acolyte will not be getting a season 2 because it's been cancelled, which I think is great news. I mean, this show was a stain on Star Wars. It's a show which is so lacking in quality where you just don't understand how this got greenlit into being a show in the first place. So much money wasted on this. And the viewership told in the end. The viewership fell down after the first 2 weeks, wasn't even making the top 10 in the charts. It came back eventually for the finale, but that was just for people to see how it actually ended and see these things are linking into a season 2, like with the Plagueis tease and the Yoda tease. Thankfully, both those characters are breathing a sigh of relief now. They're not going to be involved in a season 2 of this show. So let's read a bit of the article here. The story of The Acolyte will not continue, with Lucasfilm opting not to proceed with a second season of the Star Wars offshoot starring Amanda Stenberg. Sources tell Deadline. Word of the decision comes more than a month after the 8-episode first season of the series from creator, director, executive producer, and showrunner, bloody hell, Leslie Headland, wrapped its run on Disney+. As we move down, it says that The Acolyte did okay with critics with 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I can't understand where that number's come from. Like, the audience score is much more reflective here. I think it was about 14% or something like that. And it's, 78%. Where is that from? I mean, most people I've seen online speak about this, or even in real life, said they don't really think it was any good. I've known maybe one or two people have said they enjoyed it, but otherwise, most people have been on the same page here, saying it's pretty rubbish. And compared to other Star Wars shows like Andor, this is leaps ahead of The Acolyte, and even Ahsoka, which I don't think is that good, but compared to this, it is it's like chalk and cheese. So it's one of those shows where it's really sort of come undone as well with the story, because the story was quite promising. You thought, okay, this is taking place in the High Republic era. It's a different time period. We're moving away from the Skywalker saga. It's a mystery. It's about the Sith. All right, I'm on board here. But then when we get into it, it's like, well, who constructed this? Why are we seeing all these characters die and we only get to see them in flashbacks? Why are we seeing this Sith character who is very obviously this person's friend, be revealed? And like I think many people have said, though, the fight choreography was good. That was fine. But that was pretty much it. I mean, I said Sol was a good character, but again, he got completely destroyed in episode 7. So what really was left from this show, apart from, okay, yeah, the fight scenes were good, but that's nothing to really base a season 2 on anyway. So the news of this being cancelled is not a real surprise. As it says here, The Acolyte did get off to a strong start when it launched on the 4th of June with 2 episodes, as it was the biggest series premiere on Disney Plus this year. So there was a promising start for the show. But then I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that this is a Star Wars project. There is that intrigue there for many people. It is, Star Wars is still very special to people, so they will check it out. But then when they realize it's a load of crap, why are they going to watch it week in, week out? Instead of just watch YouTube videos like this to find out how the episode turned out. And so The Acolyte being cancelled was not a big surprise, because as it says here, like fellow global streamers Netflix and Prime Video, Disney Plus has a high viewership threshold for renewing high-end, big-budget series that cost well above $100 million per season to make. The Acolyte's budget was $180 million, and I think Disney are going to look back on this thinking, where has that money gone? What have you done with it? I mean, it's an okay-looking Disney Plus show. There's no real A-list actors in this. The fight scenes are good, but $180 million, and that's the result you get? That is absolutely bloody terrible. And yeah, I mean, I said in the previous video, there's so many inexperienced people working on this show that it was a stupid mistake in the first place. I mean, Disney can only blame themselves, and Lucasfilm as well as the studio behind it. And as we see when we continue the article, it says Lucasfilm's first and most successful to date Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian, is carrying on as it's crossing over to features with the upcoming The Mandalorian and Grogu film. Ahsoka, the company's series that preceded The Acolyte, has been renewed for a second season, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that Ahsoka is still a pre-existing character from the animated series, so the viewership was there for that show, even if I still don't think it was of the quality of Star Wars. I think it's way below what I would expect Star Wars to be. I think the best thing we've got so far is Andor. I'm still very intrigued to see how Andor Season 2 does work out, but again, also with Ahsoka, bringing back Hayden Christensen, having Anakin Skywalker in the show, I think it was also a big draw for it as well. The article finishes just by giving a brief description of The Acolyte. And The Acolyte, like I said before, it was a promising show. It's moving away from the Skywalker saga. But if you're doing that, you really should have been more prepared. Again, Lucasfilm have failed again with their planning, and they didn't plan out the sequel trilogy very well at all. I mean, yeah, the tug of war between directors, so that completely fell on its ass. And now, even with this, they now moved away. They make another big step, and they don't actually have the people on board to help them make that step. And they've, for them to fail again, there really needs to be some accountability here. Whether that's Kathleen Kennedy, whether that's someone else, I don't know. But for them to make the same sort of mistake again, to not be prepared for, this is a big step because, I think a lot of people were getting sick of the Skywalker saga at that sort of time period in Star Wars. There's so much more they could explore. And this is their first really time they've delved into that, and they failed at that first attempt. So now that's a big punch in the gut, because if they do another thing now, which is away from that saga period, people can think, well, I've seen the Acolyte, that didn't turn out so well. So the promise, the sort of expectations are going to be much lower now. Now, I have seen some comments and some tweets online saying that the reason the Acolyte did poorly in terms of viewership is because of racism, because people didn't want to see a black lead in a Star Wars show. But I think that's just completely ridiculous because, as we saw the first few weeks, it was the best premiere on Disney Plus all year. So that was never an issue. The issue people were taking with the show was the quality. That's why they dropped off. And you'll see that the interest is still there in Star Wars and the Acolyte, because a lot of people making YouTube videos and other videos online had lots of viewership because people wanted to see the reactions to the show, because they still do care, but they're not going to go directly to the source because they don't want to support it. As they did leave this show open-ended, we're now not going to know what they were going to do with Yoda and Darth Plagueis. With Yoda, of course, we've seen Yoda before. I'm happy for him to be just given a rest, leave him alone. And for Darth Plagueis, I'd like to see his character at some point, but I'm so happy we're not going to see Darth Plagueis under Leslie Headland's leadership, because I don't know what they're going to do with him. I mean, they just put him in a cave. Thank God. I mean, I'm so happy because it's a character who's got a lot of sort of mystery around him, and I don't want to see him being dissected in a season 2 of The Acolyte. Like, thank goodness. Anyway, that's just my quick thoughts on The Acolyte being cancelled. The power of one, the power of two, the power of many could not save this show. But what are your thoughts? Are you upset? Are you jumping for joy? Let me know all that down below. And if you want to watch another video on screen, we have my recent video about Snow White, and also another video that YouTube are recommending for you.